we've got that. I think we're going to go there. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Because I'm looking at it. And I think no.
Whoa.
Okay. Okay, hello everybody. We're going to get started. Thank you all for coming, and especially to those of you who I know, because some of you have heard this story before. We are the Westsmiths, and we'll introduce ourselves in a couple of minutes. The purpose here tonight is twofold. One is to hopefully inspire those of you who have families with young children to travel, and the second purpose is to give you a real idea of what it's like to travel around the world. Both from expense point of view and some tips and tricks that we learned along the way. Because we're a small group, feel free to ask questions. A couple of technical things. Those of you who know me know I love technology. I would love for you to be able to see it presentation style only without our speaker notes at the bottom, but that's not going to happen tonight. So you'll hear us walk. Hello guys, how are you? You'll hear us speaking to the notes at the bottom there. And we may or may not lose the whole process. So we'll see what happens. Maybe kind of like traveling.
It's kind of like our technology while we were traveling.
That's right, that's right. So we'll get started. Oh, let me have to do this. This is my husband, Doug. He is in architecture. He's a part-time musician, and he is very much into trivia and history, and he remembers everything, which makes him really, really hard to argue with because I'm always wrong. Doug would love to look at buildings all day long. This is a picture of us in Dubai at the Burj Khalifa, and I think that's a lot of what I know about you. You're on, Doug.
This is Lilia Westsmith. She's 10 years old. She goes to Admiral Collingwood School. She's in grade 5. At the time of our trip, you were 8. And she loves a newfound love of archaeology since we've been traveling and that too. So as you can see her sitting here dreaming of being an archaeologist someday. And that's pretty well it there.
Lily took Sammy along for the ride. So we should introduce Sammy. Sammy is a baby Stella doll that came with us around the world, and he's that color because of the fact that we went around the world. He did get one bath in Egypt, but he hasn't really turned back to his normal color yet. All right, Lily, you get to tell everybody about me.
This is my mom, Tamara. She plans our trip, and she's a teacher, half-time at my school and half-time at Nottawa. And basically the whole reason we went on the trip. And that's a picture of her when we were in Africa on our safari tour at the Maasai village with 2 3-year-old African boys walking to the school. That's that little building in the corner.
Thanks, Lil. This is where we went. We went to all of these countries, which I will not read for you, but Lily got really good at rhyming them all off in order, better than Doug and I ever could. We stayed in 23 countries for 9 months. We covered about 75,000 kilometers, which is actually almost twice around the equator, which surprised me because I was thinking, well, we only went once, but of course we went up and down and up and down. We stayed in locations for a maximum of 6 weeks. We were in France for 6 weeks, and we stayed in a minimum of 2 nights, and that was because it was just a stopover in Kuala Lumpur. So we're going to talk to you not necessarily in order of what we did. When they asked us to speak, one of the things they asked us about was trip highlights. So we're going to do that for you. We wanted to talk about the things that really made a difference in our lives, and then we've taken kind of the last half of the presentation, and we're going to share with you, hey Willa, hi guys, come on in. And the last half of the presentation, we're going to share with you some tips and tricks and questions that we constantly got asked along the way, and then if you have any questions, we'll be happy to share those too. Okay? The trip was mostly what we call flash packing. Flash packing is basically backpacking for old people. We did take luggage with us that we could have lugged around. There's a small amount of luggage, just kind of the bare necessities, and then a few. Yes. Flash packing would mean that you have a bigger budget, a little bit of a bigger budget. We did have a budget of 200 Canadian dollars a day when we did our tour. That budget was an average. So in some countries, we had a lower budget, 100 Canadian dollars a day, and then another.
Some places are like $50 a day.
That's right. Yeah. So it was an average of that. That included our food, most of our local transportation, most of our local activities that we did, but there was a separate fund that we used to do some pre-packaged tours. So that's where the not so budget came in. We did a pre-packaged tour in India, China, Egypt.
Tanzania.
Nice job. So those places we had hired people to take us around and met other families. So we were on a typical group tour.
And some were based on safety, some were based on
Culture.
The local language. Like in China, it was too hard to navigate because of the language. Some places like Egypt, it was actually a safety issue in that too. So.
That's right. And Africa, I think, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of up to us to determine what that safety factor was. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So trip highlights. Tim, you're going to start.
One of our places we ended up going to was Tanzania. And it was actually a place that we had not planned on going when we originally started the trip. But we ended up with a bit of a gap in time between we were in India till we had to get to Egypt. So we literally kind of went through like the map. It happened to be in between the two, and a lot of people had said to us, you gotta do a safari, it's like the best thing you'll ever do. So we it was a bit more out of our budget than we had anticipated, but it was definitely well worth it in the end. Because normally when you do it, you kind of do the Serengeti first, and then you end in Zanzibar, which is more like a resort type of atmosphere. But we were coming from India, so we kind of did it the opposite way. So we started in Zanzibar, and it was basically just like a kind of an island paradise thing. There was you just kind of sat on the beach and that too. As they told us, we weren't really supposed to leave the resort, so that was a safety thing. So, but when they say safety, it's pretty safe. But you wouldn't do it at night by yourself or anything like that. But it's when you're on the resort, we walked along the beach and all that, and you get harassed to buy stuff and that. But it's fairly safe in that too.
Do you want me to push the buttons so we know where you're talking?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And that was actually a resort we stayed at there. So we're on the Arabian Sea. I got that correct?
Nice. Don't ask me. You're the one.
I might have to check that one back again too. But so basically, Zanzibar is an island off the coast of Tanzania. So.
And we went to Prison Island.
We started on the resort side, which is kind of on the east side of the island. The west side, facing the land, is where Stone Town is, and that was the hub of all the slave trading during slavery. So we actually went to a place called Prison Island. It wasn't actually a prison, it actually was just a hub for slave trading and that too. And it was one of the funniest things. I never thought I'd have to try and describe slavery to my daughter or whatever that too, but it's kind of hard. It's a hard thing to describe or that too. And then, so we always kind of said that. Oh, and she was like, well, who would enslave people on that? And that's what Lily was saying to me. And I said, well, in this case, it was the British. And then she said, oh, Grandma Reenie's British. That was my mom. So she was like horrified to hear that in fact it was the British that had done this. And then the other interesting fact we learned was from that was our black guide there that took us through there. He said that the inhabitants of Zanzibar, so the black natives, they were sent into Central Africa to entice the Central Africans to come to Zanzibar, who were then made slaves or that, because the people, the Zanzibars, they were so used to being around water, they put them on the ships and they would just jump off and swim back to shore. Where the Central Africans, they'd never seen water before, not in that large a scale, so they were actually, they would just stay on the ships, but are in that too.
So Prison Island was a really historical thing for us, but it also houses these tortoises. Do you remember who gave the tortoises?
The tortoises came from Seychelles, and that tortoise right there is 192 years old. They actually write their ages on. You can sort of see a bit of blue writing on his back. That's actually his age. So all the because we see one that was like 90 years old. We go, oh, that's old, and then he goes, you thought that's old. What do you see the next one? And it'll be like 150 years old, and that's so they've been there on this island ever since. It's pretty impressive.
It made me wonder who started counting, but
I know.
Tortoise is older than Canada.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this was our guide they gave us. We went through the dusty roads, And
Highly recommend that. Anybody's gonna go, please take this company. We found them on the internet. It's a long story, I can tell you that later if you're interested, but the gentleman who's not pictured here that owns the company is a former teacher, so I liked him immediately. And his passion in life is he's married to a British lady, and his passion in life is to get Western people to experience African culture in a very safe way, and his number one goal is to get high school students coming over to do that. So I promised him when we left that I would make it my mandate to send him more people.
And he was very knowledgeable about all the animals. He had Lily make a list of animals as we were driving, and she got up to 99 different animals we saw as we were driving. That's just driving along, and you'd see a lion. And the lions just kind of lie there, We saw a cheetah, a pregnant cheetah. We didn't know it was pregnant, but he told us it was. Chased down an antelope and killed it there, and was eating that. And we saw giraffes and elephants and everything. Lots of wildebeest and lots of zebras,
Yeah, so those are actually pictures that we took, and I'm not a great photographer, so I'm particularly proud of those ones. You can see how close everything was.
The funny thing about you see there's like a wildebeest skull, thank you. That's what they use as road markers. So like they'd be driving along and you'd go, turn at the wildebeest skull. We're like, what?
So we actually got lost once because we didn't turn at the correct wildebeest skull.
That's right.
And so we ended up actually at this place when we got lost that day. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is our tent. We stayed in these tents in the middle of the Serengeti, and they actually had you could even have a shower. They had showers in these things, but it was like the guy would say, "What time do you want to shower at?" And you'd say, "Oh, say 7 o'clock," and then you'd be standing in the shower, nothing's happened, and then all of a sudden you'd hear like someone pouring water, and then all of a sudden hot water into the shower would start working. So that's why they wanted to know what time you had to do it. So, and they would just tell us, here's a walkie-talkie. If you want to leave your tent, just call us. And they go, it's safe, don't worry, but just call us if you want to leave your tent. So you're like, oh. And then you hear this kind of it's not really like a roar. It's like a rumbling noise. And we're like, oh, what's that? They go, oh, it's a lion, but don't worry, it's like kilometers away. You don't have to worry about it. That's it. And then when we were having breakfast the next morning, our guide was telling us that the lion was actually sleeping next to his tent, whatever, that too. So.
And they don't sleep in these fancy tents. They sleep in like Canadian Tire pup tents.
Yeah.
So the lion was here, and the guide was like, making the noises kilometers away. So I think that's what they tell white people.
We realized they kind of told us some fibs a bit. Oh, don't worry, it's all good, So. Yeah.
We're gonna keep going with this one. Keep going. We had lots of things that we did.
Oh, we did. And then we were driving along, we stopped at a Maasai village, and the Maasai are the only people allowed to live in the Serengeti. They're a local nomadic tribe and that too, so they just move about through the tribe, throughout the Serengeti and that too. So we just stopped to see what they do and all that stuff. And as soon as I got off the Jeep, this guy says to me, he says, I'll trade you this stick for your watch. And I bought this watch when we were in Australia. It was like a $20 digital watch I got at Target. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I have no idea what the stick is for. And then it ended up being a whole other thing when I traded for another watch, and there was watches passed around. So in the end, I ended up with this stick. And it's, from what we figure, it's for prodding the animals because they move about, the herd and stuff like that. We're not quite sure what this part's for.
Well, we have some guesses.
But the Maasai men also have a larger stick that they all want. So all the men, if you're a man, you have to have a stick. So they have these tall walking sticks that they walk about around too. So yeah, they were a pretty interesting bunch, whatever that. Our guy, the guy that took us on the tour of the village was the son of the chief, but then we found out afterwards that they're all the son of the chief. So
it's a polygamous society.
Yeah, but he'd been schooled. He was actually a vet. He had trained in London for veterinary school and all that too. So yeah, so they were very interesting group out of that.
My passion with this one was visiting the school. You saw the picture of me walking to school. I was so excited about it. I forgot to take any other pictures. But I did take this cute little video in the school, and so, of course, like school teachers do, they put on a little performance for us. So this is the little performance they put on for us. Oh, please work. oh, I was just going to pause it here. What you can't see, what you could have seen was the teacher in the bottom left-hand corner. I think he had some sort of disability because he seemed a little bit different than us. And there's a student in the very back with Down syndrome, which I was so excited to see because I work as a special education teacher. And it didn't occur to me at the time, but I was a little bit worried about how different cultures accommodate students with special needs. So he was really cute. And so then the little girl in the front that was yelling, I'm sorry you couldn't hear it as well, she then started with, I think that she counted to 10 for me or something. And so then I caught myself, then standing in front of them teaching, and I'd completely forgotten to take all these photos. Were you guys even in there? I don't even remember. Like, I was so excited.
No. There's a lot of times where we'd be in a moment and we're like watching it, and then after everyone looks, all right, who took the photo? We're like, no one forgot to take the photo or videotape it. So there's a lot of moments we've had that unfortunately were undocumented, which is too bad.
But in some ways we were in the moment.
Yeah.
So Lily's going to talk to you about her favorite part of the trip, or her highlight, which is Egypt. I should tell you that the only reason we went to Egypt is because my kid wanted to go. When we did make our plans of where to go, we did take into account, I talk about that, but one of them was safety, and we used the there's a Canadian website that talks about the different levels of safety of places. This would be considered like a yellow if you're going to go like green, yellow, red, and then after red there's like, do not go. So this one might be kind of orangey into red, but we really felt it was important that Lily had a voice about what we did, and it turned out to be really awesome. So Lily, do you want to talk about this? Do you want those notes? Is that what you're coming here for? Make sure people can see it, okay? Or they're up there, you can see them too.
So that's me with Sammy at the pyramids and the Sphinx. And according to a movie called Mr. Peabody and Sherman, the Sphinx has a butthole. It does not.
I was quite disappointed.
And the pyramids, to get into the pyramids, it's really, really tiny space. It's about that high. So Dad had lots of trouble getting inside the pyramid. And even I had to duck down and crawl into the pyramids. And that's a picture of me, Mom and Dad, and my grandma. She came to visit us when we were in Egypt. And one of the funny moments with Grandma is that we went to this, after doing the Sphinx and the pyramids, we went to this really, really nice resort called Tropitel. And I think that was Dad's favorite hotel.
Oh yeah, it was nice.
We were trying to impress Grandma, and she paid for half.
And we've been traveling pretty poor at that point. It seemed even better than it was.
And there was a pool, and it had a bunch of water slides. And there was this one water slide where it said that we don't want you to hit your head, so lay down on it like this. So Grandma said, "Oh, okay, I'll go on the water slide." And so she didn't lie down. She sat on it and then crossed her arms. So at the very end, we were in the pool waiting for her, and at the very end we were just whacked because she had fallen back and hit her head because she didn't lie down.
We actually have it on video, and it goes thunk, woo. But I couldn't do it to Grandma to actually show you the video today. All right, well, tell us about these guys.